What is up, guys? Welcome back. We got another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show for you. Wednesday evening, we'll hang out for the next 45 minutes or so and get you guys prepped for week number 8. I'm going to start the video with just getting through some of the player news and all the actives, the player practices, all the updates today, and then I'll answer some questions in here. I'm just reading off Underdog NFL's posts from today. At the top of the list, Taysom Hill, limited in practicing, so he's in the right direction towards finally being able to play this week. Chargers, DJ Chark limited in practice. We might see DJ Chark play for this team very soon, and they clearly need some updated receivers here. So we'll see if we get Chark in there. They did say Quentin Johnston, Hayden Hurst, and Will Dissly did not practice today. It's Wednesday, though, after a Monday Night Football game. Usually these guys are resting a little bit here. No Derek Carr yet today. Again, we're expecting Spencer Rattler to start one more game and then Derek Carr back week 9. Good news for the Raiders. Jacoby Myers officially limited in practice after missing the last 2 games. He's on track to play this weekend, and he can be a wide receiver 3 flex. Still no Dallas Goedert yet, though. He's not practicing today. I expect him to miss at least one more game, maybe week 9. We can get him back in there. Calvin Ridley did not practice today with a foot injury. He's expected to play. He will likely practice tomorrow. And with the DeAndre Hopkins trade to Kansas City, I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point here. Calvin Ridley might be an interesting wide receiver 3 flex going forward as like the really only receiver left there in Tennessee. So maybe Ridley gets a little bit of a boost. Interesting note from the Packers, former Jets coach Robert Saleh helping the Packers on offense for now, maybe hiring him as like an assistant or something. Bucky Irving not practicing today. I'm not too concerned about that. Again, they just played on Monday night. We'll see if he can go for week number 8, but I expect him to play. Tua Tagovailoa officially limited in practice. I think he's on track to play, and we should be able to get him in our lineups this week in Superflex. Allen Lazard not practicing today with a chest injury. We'll see about that. Zay Flowers not practicing with that ankle injury. He was able to play through it on Monday night, but I think this is just a day's rest on a short week for them. Brandon Aubrey not practicing with jury duty. Well, that's interesting. I've never seen that note before, but he should be fine to kick this weekend. Good news on the Rams, man. Cooper Kupp not on the injury report. He's playing tomorrow night. They already ruled out Jordan Whittington with that shoulder injury, so that's interesting. And then they're labeling Puka Nacua as questionable. So I think he's not going to play tomorrow night, but week 9, I think we're getting Puka Nacua and Kupp on the field together finally. Travis Etienne limited in practice today. He's on track to play week 8. 49ers, man. Kittle, Debo, and Jawan Jennings not practicing today. Samuel has a chance to play this week from the head coach here, but we'll see. He just got discharged from the hospital yesterday. But I'm watching carefully Jawan Jennings and George Kittle. I think Kittle's fine. Got to keep an eye on Jennings for that hip injury. No Josh Downs today. He's got a groin and a toe injury that they're labeling here. He's probably a 50-50 call. Maybe, again, it's Wednesday. I don't get too crazy with Wednesday practice reports, but we'll see if he can go tomorrow. Jonathan Taylor, though, back, like he's limited. I think he's on track to play this weekend and hopefully give that Colts offense a little bit of a boost. Chris Olave limited. He's back from the concussion. I expect him to play. The Saints did name Spencer Rattler starter for week number 8. DK Metcalf, guys, if you have DK Metcalf on your teams, I'm not expecting him to play in week 8. He's not practicing today. Unlikely to practice tomorrow, it says. I would plan to not have DK Metcalf in your lineups this week. Dawson Knox and Curtis Samuel not practicing. I don't know if that matters for fantasy. The big one, I guess, from today was Bryce Young starting at QB for the Panthers again. Andy Dalton was involved in a car crash. His right thumb is sprained or something like that. So he's out for a game. We'll see if he can play week 8. But Bryce Young's back. Unfortunately, it's against one of the best defenses in football in Denver. So not great there. More Panthers news. Jonathan Brooks, Adam Thielen, limited in practice. So that's a good step for their skill players getting healthier. And then I'm seeing TJ Hawkinson listed as questionable for Thursday, tomorrow night. I think he's going to play. I don't want to get him in my lineups, though. I kind of want to give him one more week, see how he looks, see how much he's used, and then feel better about my TJ Hawkinson calls. There's a chance for Tajay Spears to play. The note was he should practice Wednesday. He could play week 8. So maybe Tony Pollard gets a slight downgrade. Tajay Spears back in there. Dan Campbell saying that with Jameson Williams suspended, Allen Robinson to take on a heavy workload. So don't want to throw Allen Robinson out my lineups, but I just thought that was interesting. And no Jaden Daniels today. That was kind of the expected. I still think he has a chance to play this weekend, but I'm starting to worry if they're going to let him sit one game here. It's a good Bears defense. Maybe you take it cautious here and you let Jaden Daniels heal up properly. Jameis Winston will start for the Browns week 8 here. I think they want Dorian Thompson-Robinson to be the guy. So I don't think Jameis Winston has a super long leash, but if he plays well, he'll continue to start. Keaton Mitchell, the Baltimore Ravens second-year running back, was activated from PUP. He's going to start practicing. I don't expect him to play this week or next week, maybe week 10 or 11 at the earliest. And then I think I got one note here on Will Levis, considered a long shot for week 8. So we'll see Mason Rudolph one more time. And then I think I'm pretty much caught up on things. So we'll get into some questions here. Hope everyone's doing well. Harris, good evening. Good evening to Chase as well. He's asking for Nix or Darnold. I'm really liking Sam Darnold against the LA Rams. And I know the Rams played good last week. They played the Raiders, so I don't know if there's anything that we need to take away from that. But I think Sam Darnold is like a top 10 QB play this week. I feel pretty good about it. The Rams defense, again, they really shut down the Raiders, but they've given up, 26 points to Kyler Murray, 26 points to Brock Purdy. They let Jordan Love get 16. I think it's a safe matchup here. I like Bo Nix, but I still don't really trust Bo Nix. It is a home game against the Panthers, which could be nice, but I think I'm going to play it safe. And you're still getting a nice ceiling upside with Sam Darnold. He's got healthy weapons, TJ Hawkinson back. I'm going to go with Sam Darnold there. Sport Dog, good evening. 8-team standard 6-point touchdown. I picked up Rashad Bateman off waivers to stack with Lamar Jackson. Would you start him as a flex or in wide receiver spot? I have Breece in flex and Garrett Wilson and DJ Moore. Okay, so I do like what I'm seeing from Rashad Bateman. He's starting to step up. I don't know if I'm ready to put him in my lineups, though, over these guys. I still think Garrett Wilson and DJ Moore, I would rank them much higher than Rashad Bateman right now in weekly rankings, and then I'm going to keep playing Breece Hall. So I like the pickup, but I'm not quite ready to get him in the lineup. I just want to look at Rashad Bateman's numbers real quick here because he's starting to be a guy that is earning our trust a little bit more each week here. The last 3 games, 22 fantasy points. It's a standard league, so I'm probably not looking at the right numbers, but 121 yards and a touchdown. The week before, 71 yards. The week before that, 58 yards and a touchdown. He's got 3 touchdowns in the last 5 games. He's looking like a guy that we could trust going forward. I just worry about the volume there. He's only had 1 game with more than 5 targets. I guess he had week 1, he had 5 targets. Week 5, he had 8 targets. Otherwise, he's kind of stuck at 4. So I like Bateman, but I'm not ready to put him in over those guys. Good evening to Jason. Cousins or Purdy rest of season. I'm gonna go with Brock Purdy because I think the passing games are very equivalent. And Purdy's still throwing to George Kittle. He's still throwing to Deebo Samuel. We like some of his other options in Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. He's also getting Christian McCaffrey back, which is going to help boost his floor as well. I like Kirk Cousins, but he offers nothing as a runner, whereas Purdy this year, Purdy's been running the ball a lot more than we've seen in the past. 2 rushing touchdowns are evidence of that last week. I'm going to go with Brock Purdy rest of season. Nick Stafford, Jones, or Wilson? See, I'm not going with Daniel Jones against the Steelers. That one's an easy no. I'm kind of open to Matthew Stafford, but he really hasn't been good. And I know that's because of the quarterbacks, but in his first 2 games, week 1 with Puka and Kupp, he only hit 15 points. Week 2 with half a cup, he only hit 7 points. He's only been over double digits 3 out of 6 games. I'm going to pause on Stafford here. So I think it's between Nix and Russell Wilson. I think I'm going to go Russell Wilson, man. And I don't expect him to put up the 25 points that he did last week. I think you're looking at, maybe 240 yards and 2 touchdowns, which I think Russell Wilson's got a better chance of doing that than Bo Nix. Nix does have the rushing upside right now, but I'm going to lean with Russell Wilson. Zamir White droppable in both redraft and dynasty. I'm not quite in redraft, yeah, like move on, find somebody else with some more upside. In Dynasty, I'm not quite ready to yet because we've seen him be a good runner. He's just had some issues. He's on a really bad team right now. So I would hold in Dynasty. Doesn't have much trade value right now, so you're kind of stuck with him. If you wanted to, I mean, if your running back depth is fine in this Dynasty league and you needed to pick up something else, I'm okay with it. I don't think he's a game changer, but I'm trying to hold on to him if I can. Thomas Pollard or Neighbors, non-PPR. So non-PPR, I usually lean towards running back, but the Tennessee Titans going to Detroit, that doesn't scream like a good offensive day to me. The Lions are very good against opponent running backs, and I know Tony Pollard's been really good this year, but we have to respect the Lions' pass or run defense here. They are one of the better ones. You might be looking at something like last week. You know, Tony Pollard had 61 yards and four receiving yards. Not a big day, no touchdowns for Tony Pollard. I think his floor is pretty low. I like Malik Neighbors, but again, they're playing the Steelers, which will generate a lot of pass rush. I think if I'm ranking these guys, I'm going to go Brian Thomas Jr., number 1, Neighbors, and then Pollard, number 3. In a non-PPR league, I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. has been fantastic to start the year. Packers defense, they can give up some big plays. I'll go Brian Thomas there. Good evening, Ron. We have a trade offer for Kenneth Walker, Jameson in a late second for London and Otten. Ramondre and Najee are other starting running backs. Jaden Reed, BTJ, and Dellam are starting receivers besides London. Okay, so Kenneth Walker and Jameson Williams. Man. And you get a late second for London. I mean, Kenneth Walker's a starting running back on your team. And right now you're kind of forced to bench Tank Dell, which has been okay. But I don't hate Dell in the flex, super flex, full PPR league. I think I do it, man. Kenneth Walker's still in a window here where he's got 2 to 4 years of being a really good running back. Jameson Williams looks like a really nice dynasty asset as well, who you could start over Dell when you need it, and then you get a late second on top of that. I'm curious what you guys think in the chat. I'm kind of thinking Kenneth Walker and Jameson Williams in the late second makes sense. So I probably pull the trigger as much as it sucks giving up Drake London right now. I think that running back upgrade is kind of hard to ignore. Rachaad White, Deontay Johnson, Rico. I do not trust Deontay Johnson with Bryce Young. I'm benching Bryce Young, or I'm benching Deontay Johnson in the leagues that I have him in. It's against Denver, and you got Bryce Young. So 2 bad negatives there. Between Rachaad White and Rico Dowdle, I think you got to go Rachaad White. Like the splits last week, they used all 3 backs, but Rachaad White still got 10 carries, and he ended up being the passing down back. And just with the lack of passing down weapons, I still think Rachaad White's going to be involved in the passing game. And that's kind of what Rico Dowdle's been getting. He's been getting about 10 carries and a few catches, but I think Rachaad White's workload's a little bit stickier. So I'm going to rank these guys as Rachaad White, Rico, and then Deontay third. Samuel, droppable in Dynasty. I think Curtis Samuel, if you need to make a move and drop Curtis Samuel, you can drop him. I don't think it's happening this year, unfortunately. Amari Cooper kind of sealed that. So I'm pretty disappointed. I thought Curtis Samuel was going to be in for a good year. That was one of my biggest mistakes going into the draft this year. Strange or Disley rest of season in Dynasty. I mean, we're not starting either of these guys here. I don't think you're going to want to trust Will Disley. I think Brenton Strange is probably the better dynasty hold. Jennings, Hopkins, Moss, Eckler have PPR. So I don't know. As of right now, I don't think Jauan Jennings is going to play. He missed last week with the hip issue. He's already missing practice today with that same hip issue. I don't think he's going to play. I don't want to play Zach Moss either. His value has gone down dramatically over the last couple games. So I'm looking at Eckler versus DeAndre Hopkins right now. And it does look like Marcus Mariota is going to be the quarterback, which makes me a little bit nervous here. So if I'm ranking these guys, I'm going DeAndre Hopkins, Eckler, Moss, and then Jennings. If Jennings plays, I'll play Jennings. Jerry, start 1 RB and 1 flex. We got Chuba, Javonte, Olave, I think Olave is going to be cleared, and then Pittman. Ooh, what are the Broncos? You gotta play Javonte. Javonte after his big game, man. I was wrong about that last week, so I apologize. But Javonte Williams looked as good as ever last weekend, and I know it was the Saints, but now they're getting maybe a worse team in the Panthers. So Javonte is the clear RB that I want to start, and then I am nervous about Olave with um, Spencer Rattler, but I think he's my number 2 option if he plays. If I'm ranking these guys, I'm going to go Javonte, Olave, Chuba, and Pittman. The issue with Chuba is in the 2 games that Bryce Young started. Let me go back here. I just had it pulled up. Dang it! In the 2 games that Chuba played with Bryce Young this year, why aren't my numbers working here? 1 second. Let me pull this up. So in 2 games with Bryce Young, Chuba, week 1, he had 1.4 fantasy points, 6 for 14 yards on the ground. Week 2, he did run for 64 yards and caught 4 for 12. He ended up with 11 PPR points. It's too wide of a range of outcomes right now, and this Panthers offense is just pointing down massively right now. So I like Chuba. If you have to pull him in there, I'm okay with it, but I'm going to lean Javonte and Olave. Mostert, Eckler, Rachaad White have PPR. We're going to go with Rachaad White here pretty easily. Ingram or Tucker Kraft. Okay. Fun game. Jags and the Packers. I believe that game is it has the most implied point total this weekend. I think it's up to like 51 right now. So it's a good game to have a tight end in. Ingram going up against Green Bay. They have allowed tight ends to score. They didn't allow them last week, though. The Texans only got about 6 points here. But the 4 games before that, they let Trey McBride go pretty well, 8 for 96. They let the Rams receivers go 9 for 68. Minnesota, they allowed a touchdown to Johnny Munt. And Tennessee, they let Tennessee's tight ends rack up 20 fantasy points. I'm leaning towards Evan Ingram, and this is kind of how I'm thinking the game goes. Packers should probably win this game, which means Trevor Lawrence is playing from behind, and they're passing the ball most of the second half, which could lead to a lot of Evan Ingram volume. And if I had to bet on who's going to have more targets, I'm going to go with Evan Ingram. Tucker Kraft, is nice as he's been, he's a touchdown or bust guy right now with 4 to 5 targets per game, and he does look nice when he catches a touchdown. But I'm going to go Ingram with the higher floor and Ingram with the higher ceiling to hit you 20 points. Pick 2 PPR: Michael Wilson, Atwell, Benson, Ernest, Gibson, Spears. A lot of junk here. Okay, a lot of junk here. We're going to cross off Benson. If Travis Etienne's out, Dearness Johnson is probably the best running back on this list. I think the best receiver on this list will be Sterling Shepard, and this is how I believe the Bucs are going to still do 3 wide receiver sets. They're going to have Trey Palmer on the outside, Jalen McMillan on the outside, and I think Sterling Shepard is the slot receiver. So I think Shepard's probably your best play here of this group. The other player that I would go with here is probably Tutu Atwell tomorrow night. And again, I don't feel great about it, but if Cooper Kupp's coming back, I do think Atwell is one of their better big play receivers. Michael Wilson doesn't offer a lot of upside right now. The passing game's not great over there. I'm not using Gibson, Spears, Conklin, McLeod. I think it's Shepard and Atwell for me. If you want to hold out for Travis Etienne, though, you could go Dearness Johnson. Pick 1 full PPR: Kupp, Devontae Smith, or Debo. You got to go Kupp. I think they've handled Cooper Kupp's situation pretty well, just making sure that he's ready to be back into the mix here. They held him out of last week. He could have played on Sunday, but they held him out for Thursday Night Football. I like the matchup for Cooper Kupp. I think Debo's the tricky one. I don't know if he's going to play. And if you want to get Kupp in, you have to make your decision tomorrow. And we had a pretty bad game from Devonta Smith last weekend. I don't think we're going to see that all too often this year. But it could be a fun game. Eagles and Bengals. That could be a nice game for Devonta Smith. But I think you got to go Cooper Kupp. Stephon Diggs and Hubbard, or Reed and Terry full PPR. I'm going to go Reed and Terry McLaurin in full PPR. The good news for Terry is he still looked good with Marcus Mariota. I think Mariota can still hit his number 1 target. And then Jaden Reed just getting the Jags, like that excites me a lot. Whereas Diggs has had an opportunity here to be the guy, and he's just not really running away with it. I mean, he had a good game against New England, but that's against New England. Bad game against the Packers. Going up against the Colts, he could be in for a nice day, but I'm going to lean Reed and Terry. And hey, no problem, Ron. I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, my man. Eckler and Devonta Smith or Stephon Diggs and Najee Harris. So I think it comes down Najee over Eckler wins that at running back. And then I think the difference between Diggs and Devonta Smith isn't that much. It's not that big of a difference. So I'm going to lean Diggs and Najee there. And half PPR, yeah, that's fine. Expectations for Jonathan Brooks this season. You think he eats into Chuba workload? He will eat into the Chuba workload. And I don't think Brooks is playing week 8. I think he's on track to maybe play week 9 or week 10 at the latest. And when he does get on the field, I don't think they're going to just hand him the ball 15 times and Chuba's going to go away. I think it's probably going to be something of like a 70-30 split that first game he comes back. So if there's 18 carries in a game for the Panthers, they're going to give Chuba probably 13 of them and maybe Jonathan Brooks 5 in that first game, something like that. And then if Brooks looks good, they'll continue to ramp him up. Maybe he'll force a 50-50 split at some point here. I have a hard time seeing them give Brooks like a startable workload at any point this season, just with the way the season's going. Again, we've seen some bad injuries this year. I think the Panthers are really focused on 2025, and Chuba's playing really well right now. I don't know if they can just get rid of that. We also don't know if Jonathan Brooks is going to look good coming off this knee injury. We've seen a couple guys do it, but he's no guarantee to be an elite back right away early in his career on a really bad team. So I think he eats into Chuba's workload. I still think Chuba might be like a low-end RB2 flex play. Maybe at some point Jonathan Brooks can hop him, but it's kind of a weird situation. Pollard or Tank Dell, half PPR. I'm going to lean with the touches in this one, and I know it's the Detroit Lions. They're one of the best defenses against running backs right now. Tank Dell, though, he just hasn't been himself this year. And 0 points last weekend, man. I see an 18.7 and 11.2 in full PPR here, so the numbers aren't that great in a half PPR league. I think I lean with Tony Pollard. Give me my 15 to 18 touches, and if Tajay Spears is indeed out again, like Pollard will be the easy call. Williams or Bo, that's Caleb Williams for me all day. I want Caleb Williams fresh off a bye. Receivers are healthy. Offense is looking good, and we still the Commanders are still a bad defense, despite how well they're playing offensively. They're still a defense we want to pick on. Jerry says thoughts on Baker versus Falcons. It was a high scoring a few weeks ago, but Baker is down or roll with Darnold versus the Rams. I would probably prefer to go with Sam Darnold against the Rams. I mean, we're talking Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor, maybe TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, like that group of weapons compared to what Baker's going to have out there, it's going to look pretty bad. I still think Baker can be fine for fantasy, but I think for this first game, I want to see what it looks like because I don't want to whip Baker out there and get my 7 points. He's got a lot of unproven receivers here. I'm going to lean with Sam Darnold. Give me Justin Jefferson against the Rams on primetime. Like, that sounds pretty good. You can see JJ have a big day, and the Vikings are playing pretty well right now. Pick 2 in full PPR. Palmer, Warren, Pearsall, Polk, Sermon, Rashad White. I think this one's pretty easy here. It looks like Jonathan Taylor's going to play, and even if he doesn't play, I'm not going to go Sermon. It looks like Tyler Goodson's the running back that they prefer over Sermon anyways. So I'm going to roll out Jaylen Warren, who looked better in his second game back. He actually had more snaps and routes than Najee Harris. Najee just got the touchdown at the end of the game to really, stamp his stat line. But it is looking up for Jaylen Warren, and we do expect this team to handle the Giants pretty good, like they just handled the Jets. So you're probably looking at 10 to 15 touches for Jaylen Warren in this game. So he's a lock for me. And then I'm going to go with Rashad White. Same thing. If you can get a running back there that's going to get 10 to 12 carries and be a featured part of the passing game, which they're going to have to rely on Rashad White and Bucky Irving a lot now. I'm going to go Rashad White as the other part of that answer. Douglas or Rico Dowdle. So I'm not sure what happened with our guy Douglas. He had an illness, it said. I don't know what's his status for this weekend. But if he plays, man, the stats that I've been seeing on Douglas is like he's been the number one target for Drake May on about 40% of his throws. So I do like Demario Douglas. They are playing the Jets. They did play against the Jets earlier this year, and Douglas had a good game. He went 7 for 69, added a 9-yard carry. He had 9 targets in that game from Jacoby Brissett. I think it's safe to play Demario Douglas here, but honestly, I do like Rico Dowdle too against the 49ers. I think both these guys are 8 to 12 point plays. If Douglas is fine, I'm going to go with Demario Douglas though. I think him being attached to Drake May excites me a little bit more than Rico Dowdle. And Dallas is just a pass happy team. Sometimes they take Dowdle out of the passing situations. So 13 points per game. Let's deduct that. So for Hopkins to get 13 full PPR points per game, that's 5 for 80. I think that's probably too many yards. You probably would need the 6 for 70 line, which is more plausible. And then when he does score a touchdown, that's what gets him into the 20s. So I think he can. I think a better bet is the 11 to 12 range, whether he's catching 5 for 50, 5 for 60. He's going to have some good games with Patrick Mahomes. I'm still nervous about him being 32, coming off a knee injury. He's had a lot of injuries the last few years stack up. I don't know if he's quite the player that he was last year for parts of the stretch with Will Levis, but I do like DeAndre Hopkins in this offense. I think he's going to be a fringe wide receiver 3 going forward. The double PPR, Deontay, Debo, Xavier, and Christian Kirk. Okay, so if Debo plays, you play Debo. Man, Christian Kirk has just been – he's been really, really bad this year, which is surprising. I don't get why they're not emphasizing Christian Kirk a little bit. But in a game where the Packers – again, we're expecting the Packers to play from a lead – that could be good news for Christian Kirk. He's had games with 3, 4, 7, and 8 catches this year. I don't know if that's Xavier Legette or Xavier Worthy down there, and I don't think that matters because they just both don't catch the ball a lot. I'm going to lean Debo and Christian Kirk. If no Debo, I guess I'm going Deontay and Christian Kirk. Javonte, Najee, Bucky, double PPR. I'm going to go with Javonte. In a double PPR league, Javonte gets his catches. I'm trying to think. I don't think he had a lot of catches last week, if I remember correctly, but they really didn't need to throw him the ball. He did have 3 catches. He's had 3 catches in the last 2 games. He had 5 catches in one game, 2, 4, and 5. I'm taking Javonte Williams there. Double PPR against the Panthers. Run game perking up. I'm going to go Javonte Williams there, my man. I don't think there's any other major news we need to hit today. I will be going live tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. So if you guys want to hang out, and we'll cover the practice news and go over any questions you guys have. So 6:30 p.m. Central Time tomorrow night. I will be doing a rankings update for members there on the site if you guys want to check that out. Otherwise, I'm excited, man. It's a big week here. It's week 8. We are officially halfway through the fantasy regular season, which it's crazy. It feels like it was just August a little bit ago. So time is moving by very fast. But if I don't have any more questions, I'm going to get out of here for the night. You guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening. Again, we will go live tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. I'll cover the news and answer some questions, and we'll get you guys ready. I'm excited for tomorrow night's game. Rams-Vikings. Rams starting to get some healthy guys. Could be a nice night. But Vikings probably going to be playing pretty pissed, man. They lost a tough one to the Lions. But that's going to do it for tonight, guys. Thank you for hanging out with me. Again, tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, if you guys want to hang out and get some questions in before the game starts. Otherwise, we'll see you later. Peace. Got me feeling icy.